Welcome to the August 8th workshop. This is a recreation of the original live workshop because unfortunately it didn't get recorded. Right? So in this workshop we demonstrated building a automated trading system from scratch to the final product. As you can see, I have my chart open already. We're going to start from the very beginning all the way to a completed automating trading system. So first thing I need to do is add Bloodhound to the chart, and Bloodhound is an indicator, so we'll go into the indicator window, and all the Bloodhound indicators are under SI for shark indicators. So there's Bloodhound. We'll add it to the chart. So the first thing we need to do is we need to name the template. So as you see, when I clicked in this field here, this button appeared. I can now click on that button, and that brings up what we call the Bloodhound setup mode. Alright, so the setup mode has this chart button on it, and it also, when you click on file, it has all of your Bloodhound templates listed here. So you can so if you want to load up, an existing template that you've already created, you can just click on it and then it'll load it up. However, I'm going to start from scratch. So in doing so, I'm going to use the change button to change the name. And for these workshops, I have a file here that kind of helps me out. So it has most of the name on it, and I'm just going to put the date on there, 2012, August 8th. And I'll save that. Now we can see up here that that name appears up here, and that's the name of the Bloodhound template. Alright, so the second component that the setup mode has is this chart button. So I do have a secondary chart over here that I will use as a permissive, and I'm going to set that up as a 10-minute chart. So this is adding a secondary time series or a higher time frame to my automated trading system, and it's going to be a 10-minute time period. Now if I wanted to, you can see I have all the solvers here, and I could just start adding them and start building the system. However, in setup mode, the chart does not update in real time. So as you can see when you're looking at the chart, Bloodhound is not on the chart yet, right? Because remember, setup mode was entered from the indicator window, right? So in order to get Bloodhound on the chart, all right, I'm going to have to click OK, and we can see here that now the template has a name on it, and I can click OK again, and that will of course add the indicators to the chart. All right. So this system is also going to use a stochastics. So let me add the stochastics on here. And I'm just going to be looking at the stochastics D. I'm going to turn this off and make this more visible. And I'm going to change my parameters here. Alright, so I have my stochastics added onto the chart. And so the way this system is going to work is when the stochastics rises above the 75 level here, and then when it crosses down below, we're going to take a short. And then when stochastics comes below 25 and then rises back above 25, we're going to take a long trade. Alright, so now that we have Bloodhound on the chart, we can see that now there's this button up here, and there's also this pull down menu. So clicking this button will bring up the Bloodhound interface again, and we can see this time it does not have the chart button on it, and if we click on File, it doesn't have the list of saved Bloodhound templates. So we can't load a template from setup mode. You have to load a saved template from setup mode. Alright, so once again, so the system rules are, right, we're looking for the stochastics to cross down below 75 and cross above the 25. And we're also going to be using this this other chart here, which I'm going to set it to a 10-minute. There's our 10-minute. And also, just so we can visualize what's going on, I'm going to add an EMA 55. Alright, EMA 55. Red's good enough. Alright, so add that to the chart. Alright, so I'll come back and explain this, what this EMA 55 is for later on when I get to it. Alright, so back to this. Alright, so so we're looking for a crossover condition, and also these are also kind of, you could consider these as threshold conditions as well. However, I think in this case we only want a signal once, so that would be the crossover solver. If we used the threshold solver, that would give us a continuous signal. So, but we only want one signal to enter into the trade. So I'm going to use the crossover solver here. And I'm going to name this solver as a stochastic crossover, and it's going to be a 2575 crossover condition. And alright, so we're going to change indicator A to be the stochastics. So I'll go down here and select my stochastics. Alright, and so we want to use the D plot for long and shorts. And then indicator B is actually a fixed value, or an absolute value. So let's do the longs first. So this is going to be 75. Now, since I only want a long signal, I'm going to have to make some other changes here. So as you can see now, right, so whenever the stochastic crosses below 25, we get a short. When it crosses above, we get a long. But we only want long trades when it crosses above. So what I'll do is I'll constrain that using the evaluate property here. So I can set this to longs only, and now you can see the shorts disappeared. So what I'm going to do is just put an L on there to let me know that this is, this solver is only going to give me long signals. And then I can copy this solver And then I can use this solver. I'm going to put an S on there for shorts. And then I can change my evaluate to shorts. And then of course, so we can see now I have short signals here, or short output when it crosses below the 25, but I only want a short when it crosses below 75, so I need to change this absolute value to 75. There we go. Now the shorts are when it crosses down below 75. As we can see right here and right there. Alright, so now that's simply the signal right there, but I'm going to add a permissive or a signal filter, which is using the 10-minute chart in this EMA 55. And so what I'm looking for is when price is above the EMA 55, I only want to take longs. And then when price goes below the EMA 55, I only want to take shorts. So what I'm doing is I'm comparing price to the EMA to see where if price is above or below the EMA. So that's a comparison there. So let me use the comparison solver. Right, and I can click on the 10-minute and I can add it. You see it dropped it down below the 10-minute. And I'm going to name this solver as my EMA 55. So actually I'm comparing price to the EMA 55. There we go. Now if I added this solver on here and I made a mistake, I can use the up button. Right, you can see it moved my solver up to the default time frame, and then I can move it back down. Right, so I can take these solvers and move them on to whatever time frame I choose. Alright, so now let me turn off these other solvers. And next I need to plug in the appropriate indicators and the appropriate data that I'm comparing. So indicator A is going to be price, so I'm comparing price against the EMA. So let me put that on the closing price. And then indicator B is my EMA 55. So let me go select my EMA. Make that a 55 period. All right. And there we go. Now, let me shorten the chart up here. Now, when something to keep in mind when you're comparing, your lower time frame to your higher time frame is realize this is a 10-minute chart. So this is a time-based chart, and this is a Renko chart. So this is non-time based. And so when you look back historically, things aren't always necessarily in sync. If I changed this lower time frame to a 1-minute chart, then the bars would all synchronize up. But because the lower time frame chart here is non-time based, these bars, one bar could be worth 5 seconds and the next bar could be 1 minute or 5 minutes. So if I set my crosshairs to global, which this is set to global, let me set this one to global. Right, then we can see, so you can see that this 1 bar on the short time period is worth about 30 minutes on the higher time frame. So we can see things aren't necessarily syncing up properly. Let me shrink this up a little bit. There we go. So you can see here, so this 1 bar on the 5 Renko chart shows as green, and then this one bar over shows as red. And so essentially this bar here on the 5 Renko is approximately 50 minutes on the 10-minute chart. So this one bar here, let me mark it with an arrow, is right. So we mark it on the 10-minute chart here. So that one bar is worth, well, about these bars. So all these bars here were prices primarily below the EMA 55. You know, even though you see how the bars aren't quite syncing up. It looks a little different if I have my crosshair on the 5 Renko versus if I put my crosshairs on the 10-minute. Right. So just something to keep in mind if you're wondering why it looks like Bloodhound, you know, isn't matching up correctly from the higher time frame to the lower time frame. You know, that's just an internal condition of NinjaTrader trying to do the best it can to synchronize, you know, different time frames. You could even have the same issue if this higher time frame was a 10 better Renko bar as well. You could have the same issues because you could have like these bars going up and down. All right, so you could have these 5 bars here, or maybe even these 6 bars, all within one 10 Renko bar. So once again, you would lose the synchronizing of between the two different charts. All right, so you kind of get the gist of what's going on here. So when price is above, we can see that we got this permissive to take longs, and then when price is below the EMA 55, then we got the permissive to take shorts. Okay, so now the next step is to put them together on a logic template. So I'm going to click on the logic tab, and I'm going to make a new template. I'm going to call this my entries. So I'm going to add the solvers on here. Let me stretch this out. All right, here's a little tip. You can select multiple nodes and drag them all at once, and then just remember to click off to the side so that way they're no longer selected. And I need to add a couple of logic nodes. I'm going to use the and then I'm going to join both ands together with an or. Okay, so I'm using an and node here because I have a permissive. So this, if I connect this into the result node, all right, we can see I have my long signals here, but I need to also make sure that this solver, this permissive, is giving me is also in a long signal situation as well. So I'm going to join them together, this and node, so they both have to be in agreement to give me a signal. And there we go. So there's our long signal here. And we can see if I look at just this one solver, right, we can see these other two signals right down here got filtered out. So let me connect the AND node into the OR node and connect the OR node into the result node. And there's my signal. Alright, so next I'll connect my permissive down here and connect my short signal into the AND node, and then connect the AND node into the OR node. So essentially the OR node is just, it's like a pass-through. Think of it as a pass-through. So, you know, if the long signals fire off out of the AND node, it just passes through the OR node right into the result node. So as you can see, you can only have one leader connected to the result node at a time. Alright, so since I have a short signal from here and a long signal from here, you know, how do I get both of these signals to fire? Well, I had to join them together with an OR node, which is just essentially a pass-through. Then I can connect the OR node right into here. Now, something I can do to help me keep track of, you know, if I build a system that's fairly complex, I can keep track of what each node is doing by labeling it. So I can label this one as my long signals, and I can label this one as my short signals, right? And then of course this one is I'll just call it all signals. There. Alright, so let's take a look at the chart. And there we go. So we got this short, and the price on the 10-minute chart is below the 55 EMA. Let's kind of look back here. And so here's a short, and then look here, price dipped above. Now historically, you know, because as I explained earlier, you know, when you're looking historically, the bars didn't quite sync up, and there's a good chance if this happened in real time, because price was so low. If you look at the horizontal crosshair, you can see it's well below the 55 EMA. There's a good chance that this signal actually may not have fired in real time as a long. Alright. Well, let me add some more days to this chart. Alright, let's just look back through here historically, see what's going on. So, just keep in mind this is a very simple system. Wouldn't recommend trading this with real money. It's just good practice, getting you familiar with Bloodhound. So, alright, so there's our system, and so the next step is to put this in a strategy. Alright, so let's right click on the chart, go to strategies, and there is Raven, so I'll add Raven down here. Alright, you can see this interface here looks familiar. So what we need to do, actually let me back up just a moment, and I just want to make sure that this template is saved. So let me just save it. Alright, go back into the strategy, and let me load up a template. So right here's the name of our template, SI Training Workshop, with today's date. So let me scroll way down here. I gotta go down the bottom. You can see I can click on this down arrow to scroll down. There's our Bloodhound template. You can see, there we go, it loaded up the solvers. And it has our logic template there. Alright, so I can click OK. And there you can see we have two options here. So I'm going to use the entry logic. So this entry logic is the same thing as this pull down menu. I can pull down, and there's the name of our logic template. You can use that as the entries. And essentially this system, right now the way this system is working is you can either be an always in the market, or I can set myself a profit target and a stop loss. And so that's what I'll do right now, is I'll just set myself a profit target and a stop loss. Right, so I'm going to use ticks. Other options are percentage or price. Ticks is going to be the most common. So let's see if I can get a profit of 20 ticks out of this, and maybe I can use a stop loss of 15 ticks. And why don't I go ahead and use a trailing stop as well. And I'm going to use my Bloodhound sim account, and I'm going to use calculate on bar close. I'm going to keep that to true. We need to enable this, and all the rest of these, from the general section on down, these are just default, or these are the NinjaTrader's settings. The Bloodhound section and the trade management section, these two sections are Bloodhound sections. So if you need to know more information about these sections down below, down here, these are all available in NinjaTrader's help section. You can also, NinjaTrader offers webinars. They have a webinar every day of the week, Monday through Friday. And they do have a webinar on how to set up strategies, and they'll go through and define, explain what each of these sections do. And of course you can always ask them questions during their webinars. So that would be the best source for understanding what these options do. I'm going to turn exit on close. I'm going to turn that off. And alright, there we go. So I'll just take that, and we can see it doesn't look like anything really happened. You can see that there's another instance of Bloodhound on the chart now, right? So that's coming from the strategy that we just added to the chart. Right, so that's a function of NinjaTrader doing that. And now we can see there's two buttons on here. Right, so once again, when you add a strategy to the chart, right, it adds another instance of Bloodhound to the chart as well. And we can see that it's not showing us the chart trades, the historical chart trades, and that is because if I go into the data series, you can see I have the trades that aren't plotting. So let me turn those on. There we go. So now we can see the trades. So let's go back up all the way. Alright, so there's two good trades. And there's a stop out. And there's a good trade. Although you wouldn't really be trading on the weekend. And here is a break-even trade. Wow. And here's a stop out. Another stop out. And another stop out as we get hit by the chop. And this guy is in progress. Alright, so if you want to see, you know, how it did on the chart, right, you can right click, you can go to strategy performance, and then we can see over here, and I can look at historical and real time. There is no real time, but I'll just click on that. Let me bring the window back over. And interesting, doesn't show any trades. Let me try this again. Performance. Click historical. There we go. Wow. So last week it actually made $100. Imagine that. All right. And of course you could test this in the strategy analyzer as well. All right, so let me expand upon this, and we'll create exit signals as well. Instead of using a fixed profit target, let's create an exit signal. And so what I'm going to have to do, because I have two instances of Bloodhound on here with the same template, to reduce the confusion, I'm going to just remove this strategy, and we'll just update the Bloodhound on the chart as an indicator. So I think what I'll do is let's see, I just need to decide what I want to be as my exit. So if alright, so if the stochastic crosses down below the 25 or crosses above the 75, I'll take both of those as an exit signal. Alright, so let me get Bloodhound over here. And essentially, I can use these solvers that I have already. So alright, so let me copy this guy. And you know, just so you know, once we have logic templates defined like this, turning the solvers on and off doesn't do anything anymore. All the solvers are on by default. They're always on once you start using a logic template. That way it prevents you from accidentally turning one of your solvers or disabling one of your solvers by accident, and just kind of reduces the confusion of why your system may not be working. So once you create a logic template, all solvers are always on, regardless of the checkbox or not. Alright, so this is going to be an exit. Alright, so actually I'm going to go through and rename this. Alright, so I'm getting along when the stochastic crosses above the 25. So let me just name this real quick, and we're doing a short when the stochastic crosses below the 75. Okay, and this is going to be an exit. So if the stochastic crosses below 25, I actually want a long. So I want a short. right? So when the stochastic crosses above 25, right, we get a long signal. And to exit this long signal, we need a short signal. So when the stochastic crosses below 25, we need a short signal to exit right here. Right, so 25 is going to be my short, and I'll call it my exit. Alright, so we got short only, and change that to 25. So now I need to create a new template, and I'm going to simply call this one my exits. Alright, so let me add that new solver here. If I plug this in, alright, so I'm getting shorts out of this only. And let me close this up and refresh the chart. There we go. Oh, okay, so the chart is, oh, alright, let me bring up the Bloodhound window, and we'll start creating the exits. So essentially these solvers that I've already created, I could just copy them and modify them a little bit, and they can become my exits. But first, what I'm going to do is I see here that really I should rename these solvers here. So remember, my longs are when we cross above 25. I'm going to rename that, and my short is when I cross below 75 for the short. All right. So I'm going to copy one of these. 25. I'm going to make an exit out of this. Copy this down, and I will call it my 25 long exit. And next, I'm going to make a new logic template here. Name it my exits, and I'm going to add that new solver on here, and I'm going to connect it up. That way you can see what's happening in real time. Alright, so simple enough. Well, as you can see, remember our exits. So this is our long entry when stochastic crosses above, and we want to exit when the stochastic crosses below the 25. And to exit along, we want a short signal out of Bloodhound. So let's change our evaluate to shorts only, and there we go. So there's our exit, our short to exit the long. Alright, let me go back to the solvers, and I can copy this short entry signal solver, and let me put in the exit into the name, and go back over to the logic template and add the solver on here. Plug that in, and we can see that it's giving us a short when the stochastic crosses below. All right, but we actually want to we want to exit these short signals. So I need to modify this solver. So I need to make sure I have the right solver selected. And so to exit a short entry, I need a long signal. And there we go. So now when the stochastic crosses above 75, that gives us a long signal to exit the shorts. And as we can see, we have two solvers giving us two different exits, and we need both of the signals plugged into the result node. So we're going to connect them together using an OR logic. So remember, the OR logic is our pass-through. There we go. So there's our exit for the longs and our exits for the shorts. But remember, if we're long here, we also want to exit. We want to exit this long up here, and so we need this to be a short as well. All right. So what I can do is on the output. Set this to 1, so the crosses against direction will give us an output in the opposite direction. But what I have to do, gonna have to use both signals. So here we can see now here we have a short. The short signal will exit the long. If we went long from the stochastic crossing above the 25, if we're long here, then the short will exit that long. Right? So we need the same thing here. What happens if we're short right here? If our entry puts us short on this cross down below 75, and then when the stochastic keeps crossing or keeps moving down and it crosses below 25, we want to exit that short. So we need a long to exit the short. So I'll have to do the same here. So let me put this on both, and then I will need an output in the opposite or against the direction of the crossing. So let me set this to 1, and there we go. Now you can see there's a long and a short. So this long signal will exit the short entry from up here. So essentially you can see that we have both longs and shorts whenever the stochastic crosses the 25 or crosses the 75. Alright, so now let's take this and enter this into our strategy as our exit signals. So just to make sure, I'll save this and bring up the strategies. Add Raven. Alright, and let's load up our template. There's our template file. Alright. And you can modify any of these solvers right now, and it will modify the signals going into SI Raven for your strategy. You can modify them here. And actually, if you modify Bloodhound that's on the chart right now as an indicator, if you modify that, it will not modify your signal going into SI Raven. Remember, SI Raven opens its own copy of your Bloodhound template. So if you want to modify your signals for the strategy, you have to modify this copy, or this version of this template. Even though these templates have the same name, essentially NinjaTrader kind of makes a copy, one for the indicator that's on the chart and one for the strategy that's on the chart. Alright, so we have the strategy loaded. We can just click OK. Next thing to do is to select our entry logic and select our exit logic. And I'm not going to use a profit target or a stop loss. We'll just kind of see how this works out. Remember, this is just for demonstration purposes. And I'll put this on the My Bloodhound sim account, and I need to enable this, and I'm going to turn this exit on close off. And I'll hit OK. Alright, and we can see down here, we can see that right, this version of Bloodhound, you know, kind of has some weird, crazy signals on it, and that's because of the logic template that's selected. Right, there's no logic template selected, so I could click on here and I could select my entries. So there we go. Now we can see, right, the strategy went long, and then it went long on this cross above, and then as price kept coming down, finally the stochastic crossed below 25 and it exited. Alright, now here's another little NinjaTrader trick or tip. So if you want to know which one of these is the indicator and which one is the strategy, what you can do is if you double click on the output, right, it brings up the indicator window. Here we can see that SI Bloodhound is selected, and we can see here that a lot of these parameters are missing. All we see is the plots and the lines, and when this is all you see, that tells you that this is coming from a strategy. I can close that up, and if I double click on this one, right, you can see this SI Bloodhound that's up above on the indicators here. We can see that now we have all of the parameter settings from a standard indicator, and so that tells us that this is the actual indicator on the chart, and this Bloodhound down here is from the strategy. Alright, so you can't modify this Bloodhound down here from the strategy because it's from the strategy. So if you need to modify this Bloodhound that's in your strategy, you have to open up the strategy window. Alright, and then you can go in here and modify Bloodhound that's working inside of the strategy. Alright, so anyway, let's just go back to the beginning of the chart. And here's another thing. You can see how, right, we have our standard entry signals here, but then if we go back too far, we can see it begins to look as if we had no logic selected. Remember as before? And that is due to the look back period. So let's go back into the strategies window. And if I select SI Raven, you can see this maximum bars look back is set to 256. So what this does is this constrains Bloodhound from changing its output back to 256 bars back from the beginning of from the end of the chart. So if we want to change this, I'm going to have to disable this, right? Apply it, and then I can set this to infinite. And then let me re-enable the strategy. Click OK. Now, when we scroll back, now we can see the Bloodhound's output gets modified. So if I go here, remember, this second instance of Bloodhound on the chart is from the strategy. So if I click this, the exits, we can see it modifies Bloodhound's output all the way back to the beginning now. And that's because we, just to reiterate here, that's because we set this maximum bars look back to infinite. So let me put this on entries. And let me put this version of Bloodhound. Oh, let me close the window. Let me put this one on our exits. Alright, so there we go. So, alright, so here's our entry. So we can see our, I'm going to shrink this, the exits. So now the entries, so right, so Bloodhound went long, and then as soon as stochastics crossed above 75, it exited right there. So that was kind of a flat trade. Alright, here's a profitable trade. And then we went long and then exited down here for a loss. Alright, we went long again, exited for a profit. Alright, so we went short and then exited on the stochastics crossing below 25 for a break even. And we went long and then exited down here at the bottom. Went short, exited for about a 5-tick loss. Let's see. Or, I don't know, 2-tick loss. Alright, small little profit there. And this guy's in the middle of a trade. Alright, so if we want to, we can look at the strategy performance. I'll just look at the historical. There is no real time. And we can see this version didn't quite do as well. But doing a 7-day historical testing obviously is not enough to really base anything off of. But just for an example. All right. Okay, so that wraps up this workshop. So let me also, what we had done during the original workshop is I showed various support ways of getting support, and so let me show that to you here. Okay, one support option that you have is I have a special account on Skype for Bloodhound. So my Skype name is Zach White SI for Shark Indicators. So you're welcome to add me as a contact. If you see me online, then that means I'm available for instant support on Bloodhound. So usually when I'm working on Bloodhound, doing some testing and whatever else is needed, I will jump on to this account and put myself online. If I'm away or do not disturb, then unfortunately I'm not available. All right, but if you see me online, then you're welcome to chat me a question, or we can voice chat and take care of whatever you need. So that's one method for support. Another method is on our website. If we're on the home page here, well, any of the pages, you can go to support, click on contact us, and if you have a question, you can submit a question using this form here, and these questions get sent to both Jeremy and I. So this is versus using our personal email account. It's better to use this. That way, whichever one of us is available, we'll get to your question first. And then if you would like a training session or have some questions and would like an in-depth meeting with me, there's a book an appointment. So if you click on that button, and we're just waiting for it to load up. Here you can see you can book an appointment with me, so you just need to set your correct time zone, whatever that may be. So if you're in Alaska, put Alaska and click OK, and the site will remember your time zone, and then you can click on whatever day you'd like to meet. You can see I'm available on Sundays and Saturdays, so you can click on a Saturday, and then these times here are your time zone as you had selected up here. Alright, so this is GMT -9, which is Alaska. So you can see up here it says select at least 2 times. That way you give me an alternate. So if you want to meet first thing in the morning, but for some reason I can't, I would suggest selecting another time. So if I can't make the morning, then maybe select another time, like a couple hours later. Or better yet, select another day. We can try for the morning on another day, and you can hit next, and that'll. You can see down here it has your time selected, and then you can hit next, and that'll send that request to me, and I will answer it as soon as I can, and you'll get an email back confirming one of these times that you had selected. Alright, so let me go back to the Shark Indicator home page. Some other support areas. If you go to Bloodhound, you'll see there's Learn Bloodhound. And so this webinar, they are posted here in this webinar section. And you can see here's the recorded webinars. So this webinar will show up here on this list. And if you're new to Shark Indicators, new to Bloodhound, and you'd like reminders of our webinars, you can click here and sign up, and you'll get an email reminder. Other support areas, back to Learn Bloodhound, we have some video tutorials. And this is a work in progress, but this quick start guide is a good introduction. And then this Bloodhound interface is more in depth to kind of explain helps explain the differences, between setup mode and real-time mode. And as you saw, there was some threshold settings in there, some other settings that I didn't cover. This video will help explain that. And then a few more videos here on using some solvers. And then there's these buttons here. We'll download the Bloodhound template. So after this video was made, all the solvers that were in that Bloodhound template were saved out, and this will download that Bloodhound template with those solvers in it. And also for convenience, we also saved the chart template. So downloading this chart template and then loading the chart template on your chart will load up any of the indicators used. It'll also load up Bloodhound with the Bloodhound template already loaded into Bloodhound. So it's a little time saver, convenience. You can see this is a work in progress. We'll keep adding videos to this. more other areas of support. You can see there's a tips and tricks section. So some tips and tricks videos. This one's pretty common. So if you have a custom indicator from like a vendor, or something you might have grabbed off of Big Mike's or NinjaTrader's download section, and you're trying to determine if it'll work with Bloodhound, this video will help you analyze whether your indicator has a data output that Bloodhound can analyze, and some other tips and tricks as well. So alright, so here's the documentation section. So all the solvers are documented. So we can see here this Bloodhound reference, and then here's all the confidence solvers. Alright, so if we go into let's use this support resistance solver. That's a little more complicated, one of the more complex ones. And you can see, all these documentations give a technical explanation of what all the settings are. And if you keep scrolling down, there are examples down here to help explain, because we do understand that this is very written in technical language, so therefore it's pretty dry, and it's a little difficult to grasp just by reading it right off. So I've created a bunch of examples to help explain what the different sections do, but at the same time I tried to use some realistic examples that that I picked up in trading, things that you would look for. So you can see this one has quite a few examples, because this solver here is probably one of the more complex solvers. And then of course, if there's a download section here, and you can see there's example code, there's all the chart templates that we posted on the website. Is essentially these chart templates most of them are going to be the webinars like this one, where we save out the chart templates. And then there's the Bloodhound templates as well. So all the templates are going to be showing up in this download section. All right, well, that will conclude this webinar, and I hope to see you guys at the next one. All right, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.